The Power of Daily Action. Build Momentum, Master Discipline, and Become Unstoppable. Published by the Growth Mind Audiobook. Introduction. Every meaningful change begins long before anyone else can see it. It starts in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, no one is applauding, and no one is reminding you to keep going. It begins with a choice to act when it would be easier to wait, a choice to move when comfort tells you to stay still, a choice to take responsibility for the direction of your life, one day at a time. We often believe that successful people possess something the rest of us don't: more confidence, more talent, more motivation, or better circumstances. But if you look closely, you'll discover a different pattern. The people who achieve lasting success are not always the smartest or the most gifted. They are the ones who continue taking purposeful action long after the excitement fades. They understand that progress is not built in extraordinary moments. It is built in ordinary moments, repeated with extraordinary consistency. This audiobook is not about chasing motivation or promising overnight transformation. Motivation is temporary. Life is unpredictable. Some days you'll feel energized, while on others you'll question yourself, lose focus, or wonder if your efforts are making any difference. That's normal. What separates lasting progress from repeated frustration is not how you feel, it's what you choose to do despite how you feel. Every action matters because every action shapes you. The decision to wake up when the alarm rings, to finish the task you started, to keep a promise to yourself, to begin even when the outcome is uncertain. These moments may seem small, but together they become the foundation of your character. Your habits influence your days shape your future, and your future is built one decision at a time. Throughout the chapters ahead, you'll discover practical ways to overcome hesitation, break the cycle of procrastination, strengthen self-discipline, protect your focus, recover from setbacks, and build momentum that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. More importantly, you'll learn how to become someone who acts consistently, not because it's always easy, but because it reflects the person you choose to be. As you listen, don't treat these ideas as information to admire. Put them into practice. Pause when a question challenges you. Reflect when a lesson resonates. Most importantly, act. Even one small change applied consistently is more valuable than 100 great ideas left unused. There will never be a perfect time to begin. There will only ever be this moment. The step you take today may seem insignificant, but it has the power to change what tomorrow looks like. Progress rarely announces itself in dramatic ways. It grows quietly through repeated choices, steady effort, and the courage to continue when results are still out of sight. So don't wait for certainty. Don't wait to feel fearless. Start with what you have, where you are, and take the next step with intention. Then take another and another, because an unstoppable life isn't created by one extraordinary decision. It's created by ordinary actions repeated until they become extraordinary. Chapter 1. Break the habit of waiting and take the first step. Think about how many ideas never become reality, not because they were impossible, but because they never moved beyond the planning stage. Every day, people imagine writing a book, launching a business, improving their health, learning a skill, or changing the direction of their lives. They collect information, create detailed plans, watch countless videos, and tell themselves they will begin when they have more time, more confidence, or better circumstances. Yet the day they are waiting for rarely arrives. Waiting has a way of disguising itself as preparation, but too often it becomes a comfortable place where dreams slowly lose their energy. The truth is simple. Action changes your life, not intention. Ideas have potential, but potential alone creates nothing. The bridge between where you are and where you want to be is built through movement. No amount of thinking can replace a single meaningful step forward. One of the greatest myths about success is the belief that confident people act because they already know they will succeed. In reality, confidence is usually the result of taking action, not the reason for it. Every time you complete something that once felt difficult, your mind collects evidence that you are capable of handling challenges. That evidence becomes confidence. It isn't borrowed from positive thinking, it is earned through experience. Imagine standing at the edge of a trail leading into unfamiliar mountains. You cannot see the entire journey from where you stand. The path bends around hills, disappears into forests, and stretches far beyond your view. If you insist on seeing every step before taking the first one, you will remain exactly where you are. But once you begin walking, the next section of the path reveals itself. Progress works the same way. Clarity often follows action instead of preceding it. Many people mistake overthinking for productivity. They analyze every possibility, compare every option, and search endlessly for certainty. While thoughtful planning has value, there comes a point where more thinking produces fewer results. Endless analysis creates the illusion of progress while quietly delaying the only thing that truly moves life forward: execution. This doesn't mean acting carelessly. It means recognizing the difference between preparing to begin and avoiding the discomfort of beginning. Fear often wears the mask of logic. It whispers that you need one more course, one more plan, or one more perfect opportunity. Yet beneath those arguments is often a deeper concern: the possibility of failure, criticism, or disappointment. The remarkable thing about action is that it weakens fear. Fear grows strongest in imagination, where every mistake seems permanent and every obstacle appears enormous. Once you begin, reality replaces imagination. Problems become specific instead of overwhelming, and specific problems can be solved. Every completed step reduces uncertainty because experience teaches what speculation never can. Start viewing your actions as investments rather than tests. Too many people believe every decision must prove their ability. That belief creates unnecessary pressure. Instead, see each attempt as a contribution to your future. Some investments produce immediate rewards. Others teach valuable lessons that improve every decision that follows. Either way, nothing is wasted when you continue learning and moving forward. There is also tremendous power in lowering the threshold for beginning. If a goal feels intimidating, shrink the first step until it becomes impossible to justify avoiding it. Read one page instead of an entire chapter. Write one paragraph instead of an entire article. Exercise for 10 minutes instead of promising yourself an impossible routine. Small beginnings are not signs of small ambition. They are evidence of intelligent execution. Momentum rarely starts with dramatic action. It usually begins with a simple commitment that is honored consistently. As you continue this journey, remember that your future is shaped less by the size of your dreams than by the consistency of your actions. Every meaningful achievement, no matter how extraordinary it appears from the outside, was once an ordinary first step taken by someone who chose movement over hesitation. Today offers you that same opportunity. Do not wait until you feel fearless. Do not wait until every uncertainty disappears. Begin with what you know, use what you have, and improve as you move. The first step will not solve every problem, but it will solve the one that matters most. It will break the habit of waiting. And once you begin moving, you give yourself something far more valuable than perfect conditions. You give yourself momentum. Chapter 2. Create daily wins that build unstoppable momentum. The first step gets you moving, but the second, third, and 100th steps determine where you arrive. One action can change your direction, yet it is repeated action that changes your life. This is where momentum begins, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through a steady rhythm of small victories that keep you moving forward even when progress feels slow. Many people believe momentum appears after major success. They assume they will become consistent once they achieve something significant. In reality, momentum works in the opposite direction. Small successes create the energy that leads to larger ones. Every completed task sends a quiet message to your mind. I finish what I start. Over time, that message becomes part of your identity. Imagine trying to push a heavy flywheel. At first, every push feels difficult. The wheel barely moves, and your effort seems almost invisible. It would be easy to conclude that nothing is happening. But with each push, the wheel turns a little farther. The resistance slowly decreases. Eventually, the same effort produces far greater movement because the wheel is already in motion. Your habits work the same way. The hardest part is not maintaining momentum, it is creating it. This is why daily wins matter so much. A daily win doesn't have to be extraordinary. It simply has to move you closer to the person you want to become. Finishing a workout, writing 500 words, making an important phone call, reading for 20 minutes, organizing your workspace, or completing a difficult task before checking your messages may seem ordinary. Yet each completed action reinforces the belief that progress is something you create, not something you wait for. One of the biggest mistakes people make is measuring success only by outcomes they cannot control. They focus on promotions, business growth, recognition, or financial milestones. While those goals are worthwhile, they often take time to appear. When your motivation depends entirely on distant results, discouragement arrives quickly. A more sustainable approach is to measure what you can influence every single day, your actions. Ask yourself a different question. Instead of asking, "Did I reach my goal today?" ask, "Did I complete the actions that move me toward it?" This shift changes everything. Results are delayed, but actions are immediate. When you celebrate disciplined effort rather than waiting for external rewards, consistency becomes much easier to maintain. Momentum also grows through completion. Every unfinished task quietly occupies mental space. It reminds you of promises left unfulfilled and decisions postponed. Over time, unfinished work creates mental clutter that drains focus and confidence. Completing even small responsibilities clears that mental weight. It creates room for fresh energy and sharper thinking. Finishing matters because completion builds trust with yourself. Another important principle is to avoid chasing perfect days. Many people follow an all-or-nothing mindset. If they miss one workout, skip one study session, or fail to meet one goal, they convince themselves the entire day has been wasted. That thinking is far more damaging than the missed action itself. Progress is never destroyed by one imperfect day. It is destroyed by allowing one missed day to become a reason for stopping altogether. Think of consistency as protecting a flame. Some days the fire burns brightly, on other days it flickers. Your responsibility is not to make every day spectacular. Your responsibility is simply to keep the flame alive. Even the smallest action can prevent momentum from fading. A short walk is better than remaining inactive. One completed page is better than writing nothing. 5 focused minutes are better than waiting for an hour of perfect concentration that never arrives. Momentum thrives in environments where decisions become easier. Reduce unnecessary choices by preparing in advance. Lay out tomorrow's workout clothes tonight. Decide your most important task before ending the workday. Keep the tools you need within easy reach. Every small reduction in friction increases the likelihood that you will follow through. Successful routines are rarely built on extraordinary willpower. They are built on thoughtful preparation. There is another powerful truth about momentum that often goes unnoticed. Every positive action influences the next one. Completing a productive morning makes it easier to make healthy decisions in the afternoon. Finishing meaningful work increases the likelihood that you'll protect your evening instead of wasting it. Productive choices create a chain reaction. One disciplined decision makes the next decision slightly easier, and over time, those decisions form a lifestyle. Don't underestimate the value of small victories simply because they seem ordinary. Great achievements are rarely the result of one remarkable effort. They are usually the visible outcome of hundreds of quiet decisions made when no one was watching. The world celebrates the finish line, but momentum is built long before anyone notices the race. So begin measuring your days differently. Count the promises you kept. Count the actions you completed. Count the moments when you chose progress instead of comfort. Those are the victories that matter most because they create something far more valuable than temporary success. They create a person who no longer waits for momentum. They create a person who generates it every single day. Chapter 3. Own your morning and lead the rest of your day. Every day begins with a quiet negotiation. Before the emails arrive, before the notifications compete for your attention, and before the demands of work and life begin to pull you in different directions, you are presented with a choice. Will you direct your day, or will you spend the rest of it reacting to everyone else's priorities? The answer is often decided within the first hour after you wake up. Your morning is more than the beginning of a new day. It is the point where intention meets action. How you use this time influences not only what you accomplish, but also the mindset you carry into every challenge that follows. A focused morning does not guarantee a perfect day, but it dramatically increases the likelihood that your decisions will reflect your goals instead of your impulses. Many people start their mornings by immediately reaching for their phones. Within minutes, their attention belongs to headlines, messages, social media updates, and other people's agendas. Without realizing it, they surrender their mental energy before they have invested it in themselves. By the time they begin their most important work, their focus has already been divided into countless directions. Imagine beginning your day differently. Instead of reacting, you pause. You create a moment of intention before the noise begins. You ask yourself a simple question: what is the one action that would make today meaningful? That question shifts your attention away from busyness and toward progress. It reminds you that a productive day is not measured by how many tasks you complete, but by whether you complete the tasks that matter most. Owning your morning does not require an elaborate routine filled with dozens of habits. In fact, overly complicated routines often become difficult to sustain. The most effective mornings are built on consistency rather than complexity. A few intentional practices, repeated every day, are far more powerful than a long checklist followed only occasionally. Start by creating space before consuming information. Give your mind an opportunity to wake up without immediately absorbing the opinions, expectations, and distractions of the outside world. Use those first moments to reconnect with your own priorities. Whether that means stretching, taking a short walk, reading a few pages, writing down your thoughts, or simply sitting quietly with a clear intention, the goal is the same. Begin your day by strengthening your own direction before responding to everyone else's. Next, identify your highest value task. Every day contains work that creates movement and work that simply creates activity. They are not the same. Answering messages, attending meetings, and handling routine responsibilities may keep you busy, but they do not always move your life forward. Progress comes from completing the work that has lasting impact. The earlier you accomplish that work, the less likely it is to be replaced by unexpected interruptions. There is another advantage to completing meaningful work early in the day. Success creates momentum. Finishing an important task before most people have settled into their routine gives you a sense of accomplishment that carries into everything else you do. Instead of spending the day trying to recover lost time, you move through it with confidence because you have already invested in what truly matters. Of course, not every morning will unfold exactly as planned. Some days will begin with unexpected responsibilities, family commitments, or situations beyond your control. The goal is not perfection. The goal is adaptability. Even on your busiest mornings, you can choose one intentional action that reminds you that you are still leading your day rather than drifting through it. 5 focused minutes invested wisely are more valuable than an hour spent without purpose. It is also important to protect your energy, not just your time. Many people think productivity is about filling every available minute with work. In reality, sustainable progress depends on managing your attention. Your most valuable resource is not the number of hours in your day, but the quality of focus you bring to those hours. A calm, intentional mind will often accomplish more in 1 focused hour than a distracted mind accomplishes in 3. As your morning routine becomes consistent, something deeper begins to happen. The routine itself becomes a signal. It tells your mind that the day has begun with purpose. Repeated often enough, these actions become automatic. You no longer rely on motivation to get started because your environment and your habits naturally guide you into action. Remember, the first hour of your day is not simply about getting things done. It is about establishing leadership over your own life. Every intentional decision you make before the world demands your attention strengthens your ability to stay focused when distractions inevitably appear. So tomorrow morning, resist the urge to begin with urgency. Begin with purpose. Protect your attention before giving it away. Complete one meaningful task before chasing many small ones. Build a routine that serves your future instead of reacting to the present. When you own your morning, you don't just improve the hours that follow. You become the person who chooses direction before distraction, purpose before pressure, and action before excuses. That choice, repeated day after day, becomes one of the strongest foundations of an unstoppable life. Or Chapter 4. Replace every excuse with personal responsibility. Every person carries 2 invisible stories. The first explains why life isn't going as planned. The second explains what can be done to change it. The story you choose to believe determines the direction of your future. One story gives away your power by focusing on circumstances beyond your control. The other returns that power by asking a different question: what can I do next? Personal responsibility is often misunderstood. Some people hear the phrase and imagine blame, guilt, or harsh self-criticism. But responsibility is not about punishing yourself for where you are. It is about recognizing that regardless of how you arrived here, you still have the ability to influence where you go next. It shifts your attention away from what happened yesterday and places it firmly on what you can do today. Excuses are rarely obvious. They often sound reasonable. I'm too busy. I'll start after things calm down. I need better equipment. I don't have enough experience. This isn't the right season of my life. Each statement may contain a grain of truth, but when repeated often enough, they become barriers disguised as explanations. The danger isn't that excuses are always false. The danger is that they convince us to remain inactive. Consider 2 people facing the same challenge. Both experience setbacks. Both encounter unexpected obstacles. Both feel uncertain about the outcome. One spends weeks explaining why progress isn't possible. The other spends those same weeks searching for the next practical step. Their circumstances may be nearly identical, but their results eventually become dramatically different because one invested energy in justification while the other invested energy in action. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is learning to separate facts from interpretations. A fact is something that has happened. An interpretation is the meaning you assign to it. Losing an opportunity is a fact. Deciding that you will never succeed because of it is an interpretation. Receiving criticism is a fact. Believing it defines your potential is an interpretation. Missing a goal is a fact. Concluding that you should stop trying is an interpretation. When you learn to challenge your interpretations instead of accepting them automatically, you regain control over your response. You stop allowing temporary events to become permanent identities. Personal responsibility also means accepting that progress is rarely convenient. There will always be reasons to postpone meaningful work. Life will continue presenting distractions, interruptions, and unexpected demands. Waiting for a completely clear path often becomes another form of delay. People who consistently move forward understand that imperfect conditions are not exceptions, they are part of the journey. This doesn't mean ignoring genuine challenges. Everyone faces limitations, responsibilities, and difficulties that deserve respect. Taking responsibility does not require pretending those challenges don't exist. Instead, it asks a more productive question. Given my current reality, what is still possible? That question transforms limitations into starting points instead of stopping points. There is another hidden cost to making excuses. Every excuse weakens the trust you have in yourself. Each time you promise to begin tomorrow but choose comfort instead, your mind quietly remembers. Over time, self-confidence begins to fade, not because you lack ability, but because your actions no longer match your intentions. Fortunately, the opposite is equally true. Every time you follow through, even in a small way, you rebuild that trust. Confidence grows when your behavior consistently supports your words. An effective way to strengthen responsibility is to replace complaints with commitments. Whenever you catch yourself focusing on what isn't working, pause and ask, what action is within my control right now? You may not control the economy, other people's decisions, unexpected setbacks, or yesterday's mistakes, but you almost always control your next choice. That next choice is where your influence begins. Ownership also requires honesty. Honest people do not hide from uncomfortable truths. They admit when they have been inconsistent. They recognize when distractions have replaced priorities. They acknowledge when fear has influenced their decisions. This honesty is not an act of self-judgment, it is an act of self-respect. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge, and you cannot change what you continue to deny. As you continue your journey, remember that responsibility is not a burden to carry, it is a source of freedom. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to change your circumstances, you begin creating new circumstances through your own actions. You stop depending on perfect timing, external validation, or favorable conditions. You become the driving force behind your own progress. From this day forward, listen carefully to the explanations you give yourself. Whenever an excuse appears, don't ask whether it sounds convincing. Ask whether it moves your life forward. If it doesn't, let it go. Replace it with one meaningful action, no matter how small. Because the people who transform their lives are rarely those with the fewest obstacles. They are the ones who refuse to let obstacles become excuses. And that decision, to take ownership instead of surrendering responsibility, is one of the most powerful actions you will ever take. Chapter 5. Train yourself to act even when you don't feel like it. There is a moment that quietly shapes every successful life. It isn't the moment of applause, achievement, or recognition. It happens much earlier, often in complete silence. It is the moment when you decide to do what needs to be done, even though every emotion is pulling you in the opposite direction. That decision may seem ordinary, but repeated often enough, it becomes the foundation of discipline. Many people spend years searching for motivation, believing it is the key to consistent action. They wait to feel inspired before beginning a project, exercising, studying, or pursuing an important goal. The problem is that motivation is unpredictable. It rises and falls with your mood, your energy, your environment, and countless factors beyond your control. If your actions depend entirely on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline works differently. It does not ask, "Do I feel ready?" It asks, "What matters most right now?" Instead of allowing emotions to decide your behavior, discipline allows your values to guide your choices. It creates stability in moments when motivation disappears. While emotions change from day to day, your commitment can remain steady. Think of discipline as a bridge between intention and achievement. Every goal begins as an idea, but ideas alone cannot create results. Discipline carries those ideas across the gap by transforming repeated decisions into consistent action. Without that bridge, even the strongest intentions eventually collapse under the weight of distraction, uncertainty, or comfort. One reason discipline feels difficult at first is because your brain naturally seeks efficiency. It prefers familiar routines over unfamiliar effort. Every new habit requires energy because it challenges existing patterns. That initial resistance is not proof that you're incapable. It is simply evidence that your mind is adapting to something different. The more often you repeat a positive behavior, the less resistance you experience. What once required determination gradually becomes routine. This is why repetition matters more than intensity. A single burst of extraordinary effort may produce temporary results, but lasting change comes from actions you can repeat consistently. It is better to complete a manageable routine every day than to exhaust yourself with occasional extremes that cannot be sustained. Discipline is built through regular practice, not dramatic performances. There is another misconception worth challenging. Many people think discipline means forcing yourself to live without enjoyment or flexibility. In reality, true discipline creates freedom. When you consistently manage your health, finances, learning, or work, you reduce the stress that comes from neglect. You spend less time recovering from poor decisions because your daily choices keep you moving in a productive direction. The structure you create today becomes the freedom you experience tomorrow. One practical way to strengthen discipline is to reduce the number of negotiations you have with yourself. Imagine waking up each morning and debating whether you should exercise, work on your goals, or complete important responsibilities. Every debate consumes mental energy. Instead, decide in advance. Turn important actions into fixed appointments rather than optional choices. When a behavior becomes part of your routine, it requires less willpower because the decision has already been made. Another powerful strategy is to focus on keeping promises to yourself. Every promise you honor strengthens self-respect. Every promise you repeatedly break weakens it. If you tell yourself that you will write for 30 minutes, then write. If you commit to reading 10 pages, then read them. These actions may seem small, but they send a powerful message. I trust myself to follow through. Over time, that trust becomes one of your greatest sources of confidence. It is equally important to accept that discipline does not require perfection. There will be days when your performance falls short of your expectations. You may become tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. The disciplined response is not self-criticism. It is recovery. Return to your routine as quickly as possible. One missed day is an event. Repeatedly abandoning your commitments is a pattern. Protect the pattern, and occasional setbacks will lose much of their power. Pay attention to the language you use when facing difficult tasks. Instead of saying, "I have to do this," try saying, "I choose to do this because it supports the life I'm building." That small shift reminds you that discipline is not something imposed upon you. It is an expression of your priorities. Every disciplined action is a decision to invest in your future rather than surrender to your present mood. As discipline grows, something remarkable begins to happen. The gap between deciding and doing becomes smaller. You stop wasting energy arguing with yourself. You begin acting more quickly because action becomes part of your identity rather than an occasional achievement. You are no longer someone who waits for inspiration. You become someone who follows through because that is simply what you do. Remember, the strongest people are not those who always feel motivated. They are the ones who have learned that feelings are temporary, but actions leave lasting results. They understand that emotions can influence a moment, but habits shape a lifetime. So the next time your mind offers comfort instead of commitment, pause for a moment. Ask yourself a simple question: what would the person I'm becoming choose right now? Then act on the answer without delay. Because every time you move forward despite resistance, you accomplish something greater than completing a task. You strengthen the habit of becoming someone who can always be counted on, especially by yourself. Chapter 6. Show up every day until success has no choice but to follow. There is a quiet advantage available to everyone, yet surprisingly few people choose to develop it. It does not require exceptional talent, advanced education, or extraordinary resources. It asks for something much simpler but far less common: the willingness to keep showing up. Day after day, week after week, long after the excitement of a new goal has faded. This steady commitment is what transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Many people underestimate the power of consistency because its effects are rarely dramatic in the beginning. A single workout does not transform your body. One chapter does not make you an expert. One productive day does not build a successful business. Because the immediate reward is often small, it is tempting to believe that today's effort doesn't matter. But consistency operates according to a different timeline. It quietly accumulates value until one day the results become impossible to ignore. Imagine planting a tree. During the first weeks, there is little visible change. Most of the important work is happening beneath the surface as the roots spread deeper into the ground. If someone judged the tree only by what they could see above the soil, they might conclude that nothing meaningful was happening. Yet those unseen roots determine how tall and strong the tree will eventually become. Your daily actions follow the same pattern. Long before the world notices your progress, you are building the foundation that will support future success. One reason people struggle with consistency is that they become emotionally attached to immediate outcomes. They work hard for a short period and expect rapid results. When progress appears slower than expected, enthusiasm fades and the routine is abandoned. But meaningful goals rarely reward impatience. They reward persistence. The people who eventually succeed are often those who continue working after others have stopped paying attention. Instead of asking, "How quickly am I improving?" ask a more useful question: "Am I becoming more consistent than I was yesterday?" This shift changes your focus from chasing instant results to strengthening the process that creates lasting results. Improvement is not always visible from one day to the next, but consistency ensures that progress continues, even when you cannot immediately measure it. There is another important distinction to understand. Consistency does not mean doing the same amount every single day. Life is dynamic. Some days you will have more energy, more time, and greater opportunities than others. The goal is not identical performance. The goal is uninterrupted commitment. On your strongest days, do your best work. On your busiest days, protect the habit, even if the action is smaller than usual. A reduced effort keeps the rhythm alive, and rhythm is often more valuable than intensity. Think about the habits that define your current life. They were not created by one extraordinary decision. They were built through repetition. Whether those habits are helpful or harmful, they became automatic because they were practiced consistently. The encouraging news is that the same principle works in your favor when you intentionally build positive routines. Every repetition strengthens the pathway, making the next action easier than the last. Consistency also changes the way you see yourself. Every time you honor your commitments, you reinforce an important belief. I am someone who follows through. This identity becomes more powerful than any temporary burst of motivation. Eventually, showing up is no longer something you force yourself to do. It becomes part of who you are. Your actions and your self-image begin supporting each other instead of competing against each other. One practical strategy for maintaining consistency is to make your standards clear but flexible. Decide what showing up looks like before the day begins. If your goal is to write, define the minimum amount you will complete. If your goal is fitness, determine the smallest workout that still counts. By setting a meaningful minimum, you remove the temptation to quit simply because circumstances are not ideal. Progress continues because the habit remains intact. Another powerful habit is to track your consistency rather than your perfection. Mark each day you complete your most important action. Over time, you create visible evidence of your commitment. This record becomes more than a calendar of completed tasks. It becomes proof that you are capable of keeping promises to yourself. And once that belief grows stronger, discipline becomes easier to sustain. It is also important to remember that success is rarely the result of one remarkable opportunity. More often, it is the outcome of hundreds of ordinary days handled with extraordinary commitment. The presentation that earns respect is supported by months of preparation. The business that appears successful is built through years of steady improvement. The confident individual is shaped by countless moments of choosing action over comfort. What the world often calls talent is frequently consistency practiced long enough to look effortless. There will be seasons when your progress feels invisible. You will wonder whether your efforts are making any difference. In those moments, resist the temptation to judge your future by your current results. Trust the process you have built. Continue planting seeds even when the harvest has not yet appeared. Every meaningful action is strengthening your foundation, even if no one else can see it. Remember, consistency is not about proving something to the world. It is about becoming someone you can rely on. Each day you show up, you strengthen your character. Each commitment you keep increases your confidence. Each small action adds another layer to the life you are creating. So don't ask whether today's effort will change everything. Ask whether you're willing to let today's effort become part of something much bigger. Because success rarely arrives in a single dramatic moment. It quietly walks toward the people who never stop showing up. Chapter 7. Destroy procrastination with immediate action. Procrastination is rarely about laziness. More often, it is a habit of postponing discomfort. We delay the difficult conversation because it feels awkward. We avoid the challenging project because it seems overwhelming. We postpone learning a new skill because we fear looking inexperienced. On the surface, it appears as though we are simply putting something off. In reality, we are choosing short-term comfort over long-term progress. The problem is that delayed action comes with an invisible cost. Every unfinished task continues to occupy space in your mind. It quietly follows you throughout the day, stealing attention from whatever you're trying to do. The longer you postpone it, the heavier it feels. What began as a simple responsibility slowly transforms into a source of stress, not because the task became larger, but because your mind kept adding weight to it. Think about carrying a backpack. If you place one small stone inside, you barely notice it. Add another tomorrow, then another the next day, and eventually the weight becomes exhausting. Unfinished tasks work the same way. One delay may seem harmless, but repeated postponement creates a mental burden that drains your energy before you even begin. One of the greatest misconceptions about procrastination is believing that tomorrow will automatically be easier than today. We imagine that our future selves will have more motivation, more discipline, and more time. Yet tomorrow often arrives carrying its own responsibilities. The work you avoided yesterday doesn't disappear. It simply joins today's responsibilities, making the next step even more difficult. The solution is surprisingly simple, though not always easy. Reduce the distance between deciding and doing. Every time you make a decision, train yourself to act on it as quickly as possible. If a task takes only a few minutes, complete it immediately. If it requires more time, schedule the first concrete step before your mind has an opportunity to invent excuses. Momentum grows in the space where decisions become actions. A useful way to overcome procrastination is to stop focusing on the entire journey. Large goals often create unnecessary pressure because your mind tries to solve every future challenge at once. Instead, narrow your attention to the next visible step. If you're writing a book, don't think about finishing hundreds of pages. Open the document and write the first paragraph. If you're preparing for an exam, don't worry about mastering every subject. Study the next topic. Progress becomes manageable when you stop carrying the entire mountain and focus on climbing the next few feet. There is also a difference between being productive and feeling productive. Many people spend hours organizing files, adjusting plans, watching tutorials, or researching tools they may never use. These activities can be useful, but they often become substitutes for the real work. Preparation has value only when it leads to execution. Ask yourself regularly, am I moving closer to completion, or am I simply staying busy? That question has the power to redirect your attention toward meaningful action. Another reason procrastination becomes so persistent is that we often attach our identity to our performance. We fear that if we fail, it will say something permanent about who we are. As a result, avoiding the task feels safer than risking an imperfect outcome. But growth has never required flawless performance. It requires repeated participation. Every beginner struggles. Every expert was once inexperienced. Every meaningful achievement is built on lessons learned through imperfect attempts. When you begin, before you feel completely prepared, something important happens. Uncertainty starts giving way to clarity. Questions that seemed impossible to answer suddenly become manageable because you're working with real experience instead of imagined scenarios. Action reveals information that thinking alone cannot provide. The path becomes clearer because you're walking it, not because you've predicted every turn. Creating an environment that encourages action also makes a tremendous difference. Remove unnecessary obstacles between you and the work you want to do. Keep your materials ready. Prepare your workspace before you finish for the day. Turn off distractions during periods of focused work. The easier it is to begin, the less opportunity procrastination has to take control. Small adjustments to your environment often produce bigger results than relying on willpower alone. It is equally important to stop measuring yourself by perfect streaks. There will be days when you don't perform at your highest level. That doesn't mean you've failed. The true danger isn't missing one opportunity to act. It's allowing that missed opportunity to become permission to stop altogether. When you lose momentum, don't waste energy judging yourself. Restart immediately. A quick recovery is far more valuable than a perfect record. Here's another perspective worth remembering. Every time you procrastinate, you are making a decision about your future without realizing it. You are allowing today's comfort to shape tomorrow's circumstances. Every time you act immediately, you make a different decision. You invest in a future where opportunities expand, confidence grows, and discipline becomes stronger. Both choices create consequences. The question is simply which future you want to build. As you move forward, practice becoming someone who responds with action instead of delay. Let decisive movement become your default habit. When an important task appears, don't negotiate endlessly with yourself. Take the first step before doubt has time to build a convincing argument. Start while the task is still small. Finish what you begin. Repeat that pattern until immediate action becomes part of your character, because procrastination doesn't disappear when you feel more motivated. It disappears when you stop giving it more time than your goals. And every time you choose action over delay, you reclaim another piece of the future you've been working to create. Chapter 8. Protect your focus and invest it where it matters most. Every day your attention is pulled in dozens of directions. Notifications flash across your screen, emails arrive faster than you can answer them, conversations interrupt your thoughts. Endless streams of information compete for your curiosity. In the middle of all this noise, it becomes easy to mistake activity for achievement. You may spend an entire day occupied with tasks, only to realize that very little of what truly mattered actually moved forward. The difference between busy people and productive people is not usually the number of hours they work. It is how intentionally they invest their attention. Time is limited, but attention is even more valuable. You can always earn more money, delegate responsibilities, or improve your efficiency. You cannot recover an hour of focused concentration once it has been scattered across dozens of distractions. Think of your focus as sunlight passing through a magnifying glass. When the light is spread across a wide area, it produces only warmth. But when that same light is concentrated on a single point, it becomes powerful enough to create change. Your mind works the same way. Divided attention produces shallow results. Concentrated attention creates meaningful progress. One of the biggest obstacles to focus is the belief that multitasking makes us more efficient. In reality, every time you switch between tasks, your mind pays a hidden cost. Part of your attention remains attached to the previous activity, while another part struggles to adapt to the next. These constant transitions reduce clarity, increase mistakes, and leave you mentally exhausted. What feels like productivity is often just rapid distraction. Instead of trying to do everything at once, learn to identify the work that creates the greatest impact. At the beginning of each day, ask yourself one important question. If I could complete only one task today, which one would make the biggest difference? That question forces you to separate essential work from everything that merely feels urgent. Urgent tasks demand attention immediately. Important tasks shape your future. The challenge is learning to protect the second before the first consumes your entire day. Many people fill their schedules with responsibilities that create motion but not momentum. They answer every message the moment it appears, attend meetings that require little contribution, and spend hours responding to minor requests. By the end of the day, they feel exhausted, yet their most meaningful goals remain untouched. Productivity is not measured by how much you do. It is measured by how much of the right work gets done. This is why boundaries matter. Every time you say yes to something unnecessary, you quietly say no to something meaningful. Protecting your focus sometimes requires disappointing other people's expectations so you can remain faithful to your own priorities. That is not selfishness, it is stewardship. Your attention is one of your greatest assets, and like any valuable resource, it must be invested wisely. Creating an environment that supports focus is equally important. Your surroundings constantly influence your behavior, whether you notice it or not. A cluttered workspace often leads to a cluttered mind. Constant notifications encourage constant interruptions. An open browser with dozens of tabs invites unnecessary wandering. Small environmental distractions may seem harmless on their own, but together they quietly weaken your ability to concentrate. Simplify wherever possible. Keep only the tools you need within reach. Silence unnecessary alerts while doing meaningful work. Create periods during the day when your only responsibility is to focus on one important task. Even 30 minutes of uninterrupted concentration can produce more progress than several hours of fragmented attention. Another powerful habit is learning to finish before switching. Every unfinished task leaves behind what you might call attention residue, a portion of your mental energy that remains connected to what you left incomplete. The more often you jump from one activity to another, the more difficult it becomes to think clearly about any of them. Completing one meaningful piece of work before beginning the next allows your mind to operate with greater clarity and confidence. It is also worth remembering that focus is not only about eliminating distractions, it is about choosing a direction. When you have a clear purpose, saying no becomes easier because you understand what you're protecting. Every meaningful goal requires sacrifice. Sometimes the sacrifice is comfort, sometimes it is entertainment, sometimes it is the satisfaction of responding to every request immediately. But every choice to protect your focus is also a choice to invest in the future you want to create. As you strengthen this habit, you will notice something remarkable. The quality of your work improves, not because you have become busier, but because you have become more intentional. You think more clearly, you make better decisions, you finish more of what you start. Most importantly, you stop allowing your day to be controlled by whatever demands your attention the loudest. Remember, your future is not built by everything you could do. It is built by the few actions you consistently choose to do well. Every day presents countless opportunities to become distracted, but it also offers the opportunity to focus on what truly matters. Choose wisely. Protect your attention as carefully as you protect your time. Direct your energy toward work that creates lasting value. Let every focused hour become another investment in the life you are building, because success rarely belongs to the person who does the most. It belongs to the person who consistently gives their best attention to what matters most. Chapter 9. Build systems that keep you moving every day. Motivation can spark action, but systems sustain it. If motivation is the match that lights the fire, then systems are the steady supply of fuel that keeps it burning long after the initial excitement has faded. The people who make consistent progress are not necessarily the most motivated. More often, they are the ones who have designed their lives so that taking the next step becomes the natural choice instead of a daily struggle. Many of us place too much faith in willpower. We tell ourselves that tomorrow we will be more disciplined, more focused, or more determined. Yet willpower is a limited resource. It rises and falls with stress, fatigue, emotions, and countless unexpected events. A system, however, does not depend on how you feel. It creates a reliable path that guides your actions, even on the days when enthusiasm is nowhere to be found. Imagine trying to cross a river every morning. If there is no bridge, each crossing demands effort, planning, and uncertainty. But once a bridge is built, the journey becomes simpler. You no longer spend energy figuring out how to get across, you simply walk. A well-designed system works the same way. It removes unnecessary decisions, reduces friction, and makes productive action easier to repeat. One of the most effective systems you can create is a consistent starting routine. Every meaningful habit has a beginning. Instead of relying on inspiration, develop a simple sequence that signals it is time to begin. A writer might prepare a cup of tea, clear the desk, and open the document. Someone committed to fitness might lay out workout clothes the night before and begin each session with the same warm-up. These small rituals may seem insignificant, but they teach your mind to associate certain actions with focused work. Over time, beginning becomes automatic. Another important principle is to make good habits easier than bad ones. Human behavior naturally follows the path of least resistance. If healthy food is difficult to prepare but unhealthy options are always nearby, your environment quietly influences your decisions. If your study materials are hidden away while your phone is always within reach, distraction becomes the easier choice. Rather than blaming yourself for lacking discipline, redesign your surroundings so that positive actions require less effort than negative ones. Think carefully about the moments when your good intentions usually disappear. Perhaps you skip exercise because you return home exhausted. Maybe you delay reading because television is already on. Instead of trying to fight these patterns with greater willpower, change the system around them. Exercise before work if evenings are unpredictable. Keep a book beside your bed instead of your phone. Prepare tomorrow's priorities before today ends. Small adjustments often create surprisingly large improvements because they influence your decisions before temptation has the opportunity to take over. It is equally valuable to link new habits to existing ones. Rather than asking yourself to remember another task, attach it to something you already do without thinking. After making your morning coffee, spend 5 minutes reviewing your goals. After brushing your teeth, stretch for a few minutes. After finishing lunch, take a short walk. Existing habits become reliable anchors that make new behaviors easier to maintain. Instead of constantly starting from zero, you build upon routines that are already part of your life. Systems also benefit from clear boundaries. Decide in advance what success looks like. Vague intentions such as "I'll exercise more" or "I'll be more productive" leave too much room for inconsistency. Replace them with specific actions. Walk for 30 minutes, write 500 words, read 20 pages, or spend 1 uninterrupted hour on your highest priority task. Clarity removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is often where procrastination begins. Another powerful system is regular review. Progress becomes easier to maintain when you pause occasionally to evaluate your direction. At the end of each week, ask yourself a few honest questions. What worked well? Where did I lose momentum? Which habits supported my goals? Which ones pulled me away from them? Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Without it, days pass quickly, but lessons are easily forgotten. A simple review allows you to make small corrections before small problems become larger ones. It's also important to understand that every system requires adjustment. Life changes, responsibilities evolve, goals shift. A routine that served you well 6 months ago may no longer fit your current reality. Flexibility is not failure. It is a sign that your system is serving your life instead of forcing your life to serve the system. Keep what works, improve what doesn't. The goal is continuous refinement, not rigid perfection. Perhaps the greatest benefit of building effective systems is that they reduce the emotional weight of decision-making. Instead of asking yourself every day whether you should act, the answer has already been built into your routine. You conserve mental energy for creative thinking, problem-solving, and meaningful work because the basics are already handled by habits that support your future. Remember, remarkable lives are rarely the result of remarkable days. They are built through ordinary days guided by extraordinary systems. Every routine you create becomes an invisible force shaping your future. Every productive habit makes tomorrow slightly easier than today. Every thoughtful adjustment strengthens the foundation beneath your goals. So stop relying on motivation to rescue you whenever progress becomes difficult. Build systems that continue moving you forward when motivation is quiet, because success is not created by what you do once in a while. It is created by what your daily systems make almost impossible not to do. Chapter 10. Turn every setback into your next breakthrough. Every meaningful journey includes moments that test your resolve. No matter how carefully you plan, how disciplined you become, or how committed you are to your goals, setbacks will eventually appear. A project will fail. A carefully designed routine will be interrupted. An opportunity will disappear. Progress will slow when you expected it to accelerate. These moments are unavoidable. What determines your future is not whether you encounter obstacles, but how you respond when they arrive. Many people see setbacks as evidence that something has gone wrong. They assume that difficulty is a sign they chose the wrong path, or that they simply are not capable of succeeding. This belief causes countless dreams to end long before they had a real chance to grow. But setbacks are not roadblocks placed in your path to stop you. More often, they are checkpoints asking whether your commitment is stronger than your discomfort. Imagine climbing a mountain. No experienced climber expects a perfectly smooth ascent. There are steep sections, changing weather, loose rocks, and moments when the trail seems to disappear. None of these challenges mean the summit no longer exists. They are simply part of the landscape. Success follows the same pattern. Progress is rarely a straight line. It is a series of advances, pauses, adjustments, and renewed effort. One of the greatest mistakes people make after a setback is allowing a single event to define their identity. Missing a workout becomes, "I'm not disciplined." A rejected proposal becomes, "I'm not good enough." A failed attempt becomes, "I'll never succeed." Notice how quickly temporary experiences become permanent conclusions. Yet one action, whether successful or unsuccessful, can never accurately define who you are. Your identity is built by patterns, not isolated moments. This is why recovery matters more than perfection. Missing one day of progress is not what causes lasting failure. Staying away for weeks because of one missed day is where real damage begins. The speed at which you return to your routine often matters more than the reason you left it. Think of momentum as a flowing river. A single rock may create a brief interruption, but the water continues moving because it refuses to stop. Your progress should follow the same principle. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" That simple shift transforms disappointment into education. Every setback contains information. Perhaps your plan was unrealistic. Perhaps your preparation was incomplete. Perhaps your priorities became unclear. Whatever the lesson, extracting wisdom from difficulty ensures that the experience adds value rather than simply causing frustration. Another important habit is separating your emotions from your decisions. After experiencing failure, it is natural to feel discouraged. Those feelings deserve acknowledgement, but they should not become permanent advisors. Emotional reactions are temporary. Decisions often have lasting consequences. Give yourself permission to feel disappointed, but do not allow disappointment to decide your next move. Action, even a small action, is often the fastest path back to clarity. There is also strength in accepting responsibility without carrying unnecessary guilt. Responsibility asks, "What can I improve?" Guilt repeatedly asks, why wasn't I already perfect? One question creates growth, the other creates paralysis. Learn from mistakes without turning them into personal judgments. You are not your worst day, your biggest mistake, or your most recent setback. You are the person choosing what happens next. Resilience grows through repetition just as discipline does. Every time you recover instead of retreating, you strengthen your ability to face future challenges. Confidence begins to shift from believing that nothing will go wrong to knowing that, whatever happens, you can adapt and continue moving forward. That is a far more powerful form of confidence because it is built on experience rather than hope. One practical strategy is to create what you might call a recovery ritual. Whenever you experience a setback, follow the same sequence. Pause long enough to understand what happened. Identify one lesson worth keeping, decide on the next specific action, then begin immediately. This simple routine prevents disappointment from turning into prolonged inaction. It keeps your attention focused on progress instead of regret. It is equally important to celebrate recovery, not just achievement. Many people acknowledge only major victories while overlooking the courage it takes to begin again after failure. Yet returning after disappointment often requires more character than succeeding when everything is going well. Every comeback strengthens your belief that you are capable of continuing regardless of circumstances. Remember that some of the most valuable qualities you will ever develop, patience, resilience, adaptability, courage, and perseverance, cannot be learned during easy seasons. They are built in moments when the outcome is uncertain and the temptation to quit feels strongest. Difficulty does not automatically make you stronger, but choosing to grow through difficulty certainly can. As you continue your journey, stop measuring your progress only by how often you succeed. Also measure how quickly you recover. Count the times you refuse to stay discouraged. Notice how often you chose to continue instead of surrendering. Those moments quietly shape the person you are becoming. Because breakthroughs are rarely created by people who never experience setbacks. They are created by people who refuse to let setbacks become their final chapter. Every obstacle carries a decision within it. You can stop where you are, or you can use that obstacle as the next step upward. Choose the step, then keep climbing. Chapter 11. Raise your standards until excellence becomes normal. Every decision you make reflects an invisible standard. It shapes what you are willing to accept, what you choose to ignore, and what you expect from yourself. Long before success becomes visible to the outside world, it is quietly determined by the standards you live by when no one is watching. If your standards remain low, your results will eventually match them. Raise your standards, and your actions begin rising to meet a new level of expectation. Many people focus almost entirely on setting bigger goals. They want greater success, better health, stronger relationships, or increased financial freedom. Goals certainly provide direction, but they do not guarantee progress. Two people can pursue the same goal and achieve completely different outcomes because they operate with different personal standards. Goals tell you where you want to go. Standards determine how you choose to travel. Imagine two builders constructing identical homes. One insists on careful measurements, quality materials, and attention to every detail. The other cuts corners whenever possible, hoping the finished product will still look impressive from a distance. At first, the difference may be difficult to notice. Over time, however, the quality of each builder's standards becomes impossible to hide. Your life follows the same principle. Every choice either strengthens or weakens the foundation you are building. Raising your standards does not begin with dramatic changes. It begins with refusing to tolerate habits that quietly pull you away from the future you want. Perhaps it means arriving on time instead of making excuses for being late. Perhaps it means finishing work with care instead of settling for good enough. Perhaps it means protecting your health even when convenience offers easier alternatives. Excellence is rarely the result of one extraordinary effort. More often, it grows from ordinary actions performed with exceptional consistency. One of the most effective ways to improve your standards is to stop comparing yourself with other people. Comparison often creates two unhelpful outcomes. It either convinces you that you are falling behind or gives you permission to become comfortable because someone else is doing less. Neither mindset supports lasting growth. A far better comparison is with the person you were yesterday. Ask yourself, have I improved? Have I learned? Have I become more disciplined? Progress measured against your own potential creates healthy motivation without unnecessary distraction. It is also important to recognize that high standards are different from perfectionism. Perfectionism demands flawless results and often creates fear of failure. High standards, on the other hand, focus on wholehearted effort, continuous learning, and personal integrity. Someone with high standards understands that mistakes are part of improvement. They do not lower their expectations because of temporary setbacks, nor do they abandon progress simply because the outcome was imperfect. Another powerful habit is learning to notice the small compromises that gradually become larger ones. Rarely does anyone abandon excellence in a single decision. More often, it begins with tiny exceptions. You skip one workout, delay one responsibility, ignore one commitment, or tell yourself that one shortcut doesn't matter. While each decision may seem insignificant, repeated compromises slowly redefine what feels acceptable. Eventually, average performance becomes your new normal, not because you intended it, but because your standards quietly changed. This is why protecting your daily disciplines is so important. The small actions you repeat are constantly teaching your mind what to expect from you. Every promise you keep reinforces reliability. Every commitment you honor strengthens self-respect. Standards are not built through occasional moments of determination. They are built through repeated evidence that your actions consistently align with your values. Take a moment to consider the language you use with yourself. When you repeatedly say, "That's good enough," ask whether it truly reflects your best effort or whether it simply reflects convenience. There is nothing wrong with completing work efficiently, but there is a meaningful difference between working wisely and settling unnecessarily. Excellence is not about doing more than everyone else. It is about doing your best with intention, care, and consistency. Another way to raise your standards is to spend time with people who naturally elevate yours. Expectations are contagious. If you surround yourself with individuals who value growth, integrity, discipline, and continuous improvement, their mindset will influence your own. Likewise, environments that encourage mediocrity make it easier to lower your expectations without even realizing it. Choose influences that challenge you to become stronger rather than those that encourage complacency. As your standards rise, you will notice something remarkable. Many decisions become easier. You no longer debate whether to keep your word because keeping your word has become part of who you are. You no longer question whether to finish what you started because follow-through is now your normal response. What once required discipline gradually becomes your identity. Excellence stops feeling like an occasional achievement and begins feeling like your natural way of operating. Remember, your future is not determined by what you occasionally accomplish during moments of inspiration. It is determined by the standards you consistently refuse to compromise. Every ordinary day offers an opportunity to strengthen them. Every meaningful choice becomes another brick in the foundation of the life you are building. So don't ask yourself whether you can do more. Ask whether you can expect more from yourself. Raise your standards one decision at a time. Protect them through your daily actions. and continue until excellence no longer feels exceptional. It simply becomes the way you live. Chapter 12. Build an environment that pushes you forward. Success is often described as a matter of determination, discipline, or talent. While each of these qualities matters, there is another influence that quietly shapes your daily choices long before determination is ever tested. That influence is your environment. The places you spend time, the people you interact with, the routines you follow, and even the objects surrounding you constantly encourage certain behaviors while discouraging others. Whether you realize it or not, your environment is always helping to write the story of your life. Many people try to transform themselves without changing the conditions that repeatedly pull them backward. They set ambitious goals but leave distractions within easy reach. They commit to healthier habits while surrounding themselves with constant temptation. They hope to become focused while living in an environment designed for interruption. Eventually, they conclude that they lack discipline, when in reality they have been asking discipline to fight unnecessary battles every single day. Imagine planting a seed. Even the healthiest seed will struggle if it is placed in poor soil with little sunlight or water. Yet place that same seed in the right environment, and growth becomes natural. Human potential works in much the same way. Your abilities matter, but the conditions you create around those abilities often determine whether they flourish or remain hidden. Start by looking honestly at your physical surroundings. Walk through your home or workspace as though you were seeing it for the first time. Ask yourself a simple question: what behaviors does this space encourage? Does your desk invite focused work or constant distraction? Are the tools needed for your goals easy to access, or are they buried beneath clutter? Is your phone always within reach while your books, journal, or project materials remain out of sight? Small details influence daily decisions more than most people realize. One of the simplest ways to improve your environment is to remove friction from the habits you want to build, while adding friction to the habits you want to leave behind. If you want to read more, keep a book where you naturally spend your free time. If you want to exercise consistently, prepare your equipment before you go to bed. If you want to reduce unnecessary screen time, keep your phone out of reach during periods of deep work. These changes may appear minor, but they quietly shift the balance in favor of better choices. Your environment is not limited to physical spaces. It also includes the voices you hear most often. Every conversation, every piece of media you consume, and every relationship influences your thinking in some way. This does not mean surrounding yourself only with people who agree with you. Healthy disagreement can encourage growth. However, there is a meaningful difference between people who challenge you to improve and people who repeatedly encourage doubt, complacency, or negativity. Pay close attention to how you feel after spending time with certain individuals. Do they leave you energized, inspired, and ready to act? Or do they leave you discouraged, distracted, or emotionally drained? The people around you cannot determine your future, but they can influence the quality of your decisions. Choose relationships that encourage responsibility, honesty, growth, and action. Those qualities have a way of spreading from one person to another. The information you consume also becomes part of your environment. Every article you read, every video you watch, and every conversation you engage in shapes your perspective. If your attention is constantly filled with fear, comparison, or endless entertainment, your mind will naturally drift toward those patterns. Instead, become intentional about what you allow into your mental space. Feed your curiosity with ideas that expand your thinking, strengthen your character, and inspire meaningful action. Another overlooked aspect of a productive environment is protecting periods of uninterrupted focus. In today's world, constant availability is often mistaken for responsibility. Yet, if every notification receives immediate attention, your most important work rarely receives your best attention. Create boundaries around your time. Let people know when you are unavailable for deep work. Turn off unnecessary alerts. Give yourself permission to be fully present with one meaningful task instead of partially present with many. It is equally important to build environments that support recovery, not just productivity. Continuous effort without rest eventually weakens both your energy and your judgment. Create spaces where you can think clearly, reflect honestly, and recharge intentionally. A quiet walk, a comfortable reading corner, a notebook kept nearby for reflection, or simply a few moments without digital distractions can restore the mental clarity needed to continue moving forward. Remember that your environment should make your future easier, not your excuses stronger. Every object, routine, and relationship either pulls you closer to your goals or gently nudges you away from them. While no environment will eliminate every challenge, a thoughtfully designed one reduces unnecessary resistance and allows your best habits to emerge more naturally. As you grow, your environment should grow with you. What supported you at one stage of life may no longer be enough for the next. Continue refining your surroundings so they reflect the person you are becoming rather than the person you used to be. Let your workspace reflect your commitment. Let your relationships reflect your values. Let your daily routines reflect your ambitions. Because lasting transformation is rarely the result of willpower alone. It happens when your environment begins working with you instead of against you. Create spaces that encourage action. Choose influences that strengthen your character. Design a life where the right choice becomes the easiest choice, and watch how consistently your surroundings help shape the future you've chosen to build. Chapter 13. Become someone who always finishes what they start. There is a powerful difference between having good intentions and having a dependable character. Good intentions inspire beginnings. Character determines endings. Every day, countless people begin projects with enthusiasm, set ambitious goals, and make sincere promises to themselves. Yet many of those promises quietly fade, not because the goals were impossible, but because the habit of following through was never fully developed. Finishing what you start is more than a productivity skill. It is an identity. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your actions consistently match your words. Every time you complete something meaningful, you strengthen an inner belief that cannot be borrowed from praise or external recognition. You begin to trust yourself, and that trust becomes one of your greatest advantages. Many people assume that successful individuals possess extraordinary determination. More often, they possess extraordinary consistency. They have learned that the excitement of a new beginning is temporary, but commitment can remain long after excitement disappears. They understand that every worthwhile goal eventually reaches a stage where progress feels ordinary, repetitive, or slow. Those are the moments that separate dreamers from builders. Imagine constructing a bridge across a wide river. The first beams are exciting because the vision is fresh. Halfway through, the work becomes repetitive. Near the end, fatigue begins to compete with focus, yet the bridge serves its purpose only when the final section is completed. Stopping before the last step leaves all the previous effort unfinished. Goals work the same way. Value is created not simply by beginning, but by bringing meaningful work across the finish line. One reason people struggle to finish is that they become distracted by the attraction of new ideas. Starting something new often feels more exciting than completing something already in progress. New projects promise possibility. Existing projects demand patience. While curiosity is valuable, constantly chasing the next opportunity often prevents mastery of the current one. Progress requires deciding that some opportunities are worth completing before pursuing others. This does not mean you must finish everything you ever begin. Wisdom sometimes requires letting go of paths that no longer align with your values or long-term direction. The key difference is intentionality. Quitting because something no longer serves your purpose is very different from abandoning it simply because it became difficult. One decision reflects clarity, the other reflects avoidance. A helpful question to ask whenever your motivation begins to fade is, why did I start? Return to the purpose that inspired your first step. Goals connected to meaningful values have a remarkable ability to renew commitment. When your work is tied to something larger than temporary emotion, persistence becomes easier because you remember that your effort has significance beyond today's comfort. Another powerful strategy is to divide long journeys into meaningful milestones. Looking only at the final destination can sometimes feel overwhelming. Instead, create smaller finish lines along the way. Celebrate completing a chapter rather than focusing only on finishing the entire book. Recognize each completed phase of a project instead of waiting until everything is done. These milestones create a sense of progress that fuels continued effort without reducing the importance of the larger goal. It is also important to understand that finishing requires learning how to manage discomfort. Every meaningful pursuit eventually includes boredom, uncertainty, frustration, or self-doubt. These experiences are not signs that you should stop. They are evidence that you have moved beyond the excitement of beginning and entered the deeper work of becoming. Character is strengthened precisely because you continue despite temporary discomfort. Pay close attention to the promises you make to yourself. Every commitment, no matter how small, shapes your identity. If you repeatedly promise to begin tomorrow but delay again, your mind slowly loses confidence in your own words. On the other hand, every promise you honor becomes another piece of evidence that you are reliable. Self-respect is not built through positive affirmations alone. It grows through repeated proof that your actions align with your commitments. There is another hidden reward that comes from finishing. Completion creates mental freedom. Unfinished work quietly occupies attention, while completed work creates space for new ideas, fresh energy, and greater creativity. Each finished task becomes a reminder that progress is possible. Instead of carrying the weight of unfinished intentions, you carry the confidence of fulfilled commitments. As you continue building your future, remember that your reputation begins with the promises you keep to yourself. Long before others see you as dependable, you must become dependable in private. Show up when no one is watching. Complete the work that only you know still needs to be done. Let consistency become stronger than convenience. Over time, these quiet decisions shape a character that does not depend on external accountability because it has developed internal integrity. Eventually, something remarkable happens. Finishing is no longer something you force yourself to do. It becomes your natural response. You become someone who completes conversations instead of avoiding them, follows through on goals instead of endlessly planning them, and keeps commitments instead of collecting intentions. The habit of completion becomes part of your identity. Remember, success is not built on brilliant beginnings alone. It is built on meaningful endings. Start with purpose. Continue with discipline. Finish with integrity. Then repeat the process again and again, because every completed promise strengthens the most important relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. And a person who can trust themselves has already built the foundation for an unstoppable life. Chapter 14. Live each day like the person you want to become. Every chapter of this audiobook has pointed toward one simple truth. The life you hope to build is created through the actions you choose today. Not someday, not when circumstances become easier, not when you finally feel completely prepared. Your future is taking shape in the ordinary decisions you make while no one is watching. Every habit you repeat, every promise you keep, every challenge you face with courage becomes another brushstroke on the portrait of the person you are becoming. It is easy to think of personal growth as a destination, a point somewhere in the future where discipline becomes effortless, confidence never fades, and success feels permanent. But lasting growth does not work that way. Growth is not a place you arrive. It is a way you choose to live. The moment you stop treating improvement as a temporary project and begin treating it as your daily standard, everything changes. Action is no longer something you occasionally perform. It becomes part of your identity. Throughout this journey, you've explored how momentum begins with a single step, how discipline grows through repetition, how consistency outlasts motivation, and how responsibility creates freedom. You've seen that focus must be protected, systems must be designed, setbacks must become lessons, and environments must support your best decisions. These ideas are not separate pieces of advice. Together, they form a complete way of approaching life. Each principle strengthens the others, creating a cycle of continuous growth. Think of your life as a river rather than a collection of isolated moments. Every decision is like a drop of water joining the current. One drop may appear insignificant, but thousands of drops shape the direction and strength of the river over time. In the same way, today's choices become tomorrow's habits. Tomorrow's habits become your character, and your character quietly determines the quality of your future. The greatest changes rarely happen in dramatic moments. They happen through ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary commitment. There will always be new goals to pursue, new skills to learn, new challenges to overcome. That is not a sign that you are falling behind. It is evidence that growth is alive. People who continue improving never see success as permission to become comfortable. Instead, they view each achievement as a foundation for the next opportunity to grow. They celebrate progress without allowing it to become complacency. As your life evolves, remember to protect the habits that brought you this far. Success often creates a subtle danger. Once people achieve meaningful results, they sometimes abandon the daily disciplines that produced them. They become attached to the outcome while neglecting the process. Yet the process is where lasting strength is built. Continue honoring the small actions that shaped your progress in the beginning. They remain just as valuable after success as they were before it. There will also be seasons when motivation feels distant. Responsibilities will increase. Unexpected difficulties will interrupt carefully planned routines. During those moments, return to the principles that have guided this audiobook. Take the next step instead of trying to solve everything at once. Protect your focus instead of chasing distractions. Rebuild momentum with one meaningful action. Adapt instead of surrendering. Most importantly, remember that consistency is measured over years, not days. Never underestimate the influence of your example. Whether you realize it or not, your actions give other people permission to believe that meaningful change is possible. Family members notice your discipline, friends observe your persistence, colleagues recognize your reliability. You do not inspire others by speaking about potential. You inspire them by living with purpose. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes silent evidence that growth is available to anyone willing to commit to the process. Take a moment to imagine yourself 1 year from now. Not the version shaped by wishful thinking, but the version shaped by daily action. Imagine the confidence built from keeping your commitments. Imagine the peace that comes from knowing you no longer depend on perfect motivation. Imagine the strength developed through overcoming setbacks instead of avoiding them. That future is not created by one extraordinary decision. It is built through the countless ordinary decisions waiting for you after this audiobook ends. So as you close this final chapter, resist the temptation to admire these ideas without applying them. Knowledge has value only when it changes behavior. Let every lesson become a habit. Let every habit strengthen your identity. Let your identity guide your future choices until disciplined action becomes your natural way of living. Do not ask whether you are capable of becoming unstoppable. Instead, ask whether you are willing to keep showing up, keep learning, keep adapting, and keep moving forward, especially on the days when no one is watching. Because that is where unstoppable people are truly made. Not in moments of comfort, but in moments of commitment. Not through one remarkable achievement, but through thousands of ordinary actions carried out with intention. The next chapter of your life has not been written yet. Pick up the pen, take the next action. Then keep writing your story, one purposeful day at a time. Conclusion. You have reached the end of this audiobook, but this is not the end of your journey. In many ways, it is the true beginning. The ideas you've explored over these chapters have never been meant to remain words on a page or thoughts in your mind. Their value comes from what happens after you finish listening, when you return to your daily life and begin putting them into practice. Throughout this journey, one message has remained constant. Meaningful change is not created by occasional bursts of inspiration. It is built through repeated action. Every chapter has revealed a different piece of that truth. You learned that progress begins the moment you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You discovered that momentum grows through small, consistent wins, that disciplined mornings create purposeful days, and that personal responsibility gives you the power to shape your future instead of simply reacting to it. You explored how discipline is strengthened through repetition rather than emotion, how consistency quietly compounds into remarkable results, and why immediate action is the most effective cure for procrastination. You saw the importance of protecting your attention, creating systems that support productive habits, and turning setbacks into opportunities for growth instead of reasons to quit. You learned that higher standards elevate every area of life, that your environment influences your choices more than you may realize, and that finishing what you start builds a level of self-trust no outside achievement can replace. Finally, you discovered that becoming unstoppable is not about reaching a finish line. It is about choosing every single day to live in alignment with the person you want to become. As you move forward, remember that transformation rarely announces itself. Most of the time, it happens quietly. It happens when you wake up and keep a promise to yourself. It happens when you choose progress over comfort, focus over distraction, and consistency over convenience. These moments may seem ordinary, but together they create extraordinary lives. There will be days when your energy is high and your path feels clear. There will also be days when doubts return, motivation fades, and progress seems invisible. Do not mistake those moments for failure. Every worthwhile journey includes seasons of uncertainty. What matters is not whether every day is perfect, but whether you continue moving when perfection is impossible. When you encounter obstacles, and you will, return to the principles you've learned here. Take the next meaningful step instead of waiting for certainty. Protect your habits instead of protecting your excuses. Let discipline guide you when emotions become unreliable. Trust that small actions, repeated with patience, possess far greater power than dramatic efforts that cannot be sustained. Most importantly, never underestimate the influence of a single decision made with intention. One conversation can repair a relationship. 1 hour of focused work can move a dream closer to reality. One healthy choice can begin a new chapter. One commitment honored today can strengthen the person you become tomorrow. Your future is not shaped all at once. It is shaped one decision, one habit, and one action at a time. So, as this audiobook comes to a close, make one promise to yourself. Do not wait for another perfect moment to begin improving your life. Begin with the opportunities already in front of you. Build momentum through today's actions. Protect it tomorrow. Repeat the process the day after that. Over time, those ordinary decisions will become extraordinary results. Remember, success is not reserved for those with the best circumstances. It belongs to those who continue taking meaningful action long after motivation fades. Keep learning, keep adapting, keep showing up. Keep honoring the commitments you make to yourself. Your next action is waiting. Take it with purpose, then take another, and let your life become the strongest proof that consistent action, practiced day after day, can transform not only what you achieve, but who you become.